We have launched the Jupyter Notebook. It will take some time. Here, you may create a separate folder for LP2 practicals. And here in a new notebook, you will type in import NLTK. If it is visible to you, you will type import NLTK, execute it, and then type in NLTK download. So once you execute this command NLTK download, a prompt will appear. It will take some time to come up. It is executing. This sort of prompt will come up if it is visible to y'all. Y'all can see that since NLTK is already installed, it appears in a green color. If you don't have NLTK, this appears in a gray color or a red color. Okay. So in that case, you have to select the very first option, that is all packages. Just click once on it, and then you have a download button below. Just click on download. It is a package of almost 1.5 GB, I guess. So it will take at least 20 to 25 minutes to get downloaded. Once you get downloaded, uh, while it is getting downloaded, you will observe the progress of installation over here. And once it is complete, you will see this progress bar as completely green and all packages are installed. So just for your knowledge, this is the installation of NLTK. Okay. You can try it simultaneously as I am explaining the practical. So once it gets downloaded, you will see an output as true. That's all. Uh, Let us firstly understand what is expected in the the fourth practical. Here we are going to perform text mining, and in text mining, a very important step is feature extraction. Okay, so a feature you may consider is it is a significant word, right? For any I mean for any mining process, whenever we are going to use the text document, at that time there has to be, the document needs to be in a form in which there are only significant words present for the, which will be considered for the process of mining. Now, may it be for classification, may it be for any other type of mining. Understood? So, as a pre-processing part, before we apply directly the model, as a pre-processing part, we need to perform 2 to 3 steps, right? One of which is stop word elimination. Now, what are stop words? Are general articles and the, is, for. These words are considered to be stop words, which are of no use in text mining, isn't it? So from the text document, we need to remove those words. Okay. And once we have removed those words from the document, we need to perform stemming. Now, stemming is the process in which we will convert every word of the document into its root form, into its base form. For example, here we have a text sentence, if you can see that I have highlighted. Okay, it says, 1 minute, I'll zoom it up so it's better visible. Yeah, it says programmer writes program with programming languages. So there are n number of words over here whose root form is what? Program. So it removes this er, s, ing, ed likewise from the words and converts the word into its root form or base form. That is called as stemming process. Understood? So, and after we have removed the stop words, after we have removed, we have converted the words into the root form, then whatever we have into the document or into the text, that is a rich information or rich corpus, which we can directly take to apply the model upon it and gain the results, right? Until that point, all these stop words and other forms of words will act as noise, right? It will not allow us to extract the exact meaning out of that text. It will not allow us to gain insight out of the text. These words will act as noise, and we want the text to be noise free. Not completely, it is not possible at all, but noise should be reduced as much as possible. So for that reason, we are performing these two steps. Okay, so NLTK is going to provide us a class which we have imported, which is called stop words. And to convert the text into tokens, I mean tokenization, I hope most of you all might be knowing about it. Tokenization is a process in which we are converting, in which we are taking one word at a time from the document and keeping it in an array or a list, right? And a number is being assigned. Since we are adding it to a list or an array, definitely the word will have its own index value. So, which is easier for us to deal, which allows us to deal with every word at a time. Whatever operations we want to perform, we can perform with that particular word. So, converting a text into tokens is called as tokenization. And while we convert, every word or every token that we get is going to have its own unique index value. Okay, and on what basis this tokenization will take place in the text document? We have to specify a delimiter, right? By default, the delimiter is space, because we know in a text document, space is the differentiator between two words, right? We can specify any other delimiter, depends upon the nature of that document, right? We can have comma, semicolon, whatever delimiter we have, but it depends completely on how the document has been written. If we take a pure text document, definitely by default, space will be the delimiter. Fine. Then to perform stemming, we have a Potter stemmer class provided by NLTK, and we'll see how to use it. And once we have made ready our document, text document, after performing these three steps, we need to extract features out of it. We need to understand what words are impactful and which words are so-so, which are not having any significance in that document. So for that reason, that is called as feature extraction. And for that, we have a couple of algorithms to study in this particular practical. One is count vectorizer and one is TF-IDF. We'll see about that later. Let us firstly see how to remove the stop words. So this is the sample text that we have taken. Programmer writes program with programming languages, and we have the class stop words, and there is a method called as words to which we have to pass the language. We have passed English, since we are dealing with English language stop words, right? So that will create a corpus of English language stop words, and we are assigning it to a variable called as stop underscore words. That's all. And once we print that variable, we have a list that you can see. So all these words, sorry, it's a vector. All these words in the given vector are the stop words of English language according to NLTK. You can create your own library in which you can specify your own stop words as per the English language. Fine. So we want to eliminate if there is any word occurring in our text which belongs to this vector, we will delete that word from our text. Okay, we will eliminate that word. That is what the motive of stop word elimination is. Fine. So we have tokenized our text by using the word tokenizer class that we have imported. We have passed our text to the constructor of that class, word tokenize, fine. And whatever is the output, we have stored it in word underscore tokens, fine. Now, we have taken an empty list, filtered tokens to store the stop word eliminated text words, right? So whichever word is present in word tokens, we'll take one word at a time, and if that word is not present in our stop words list, then we are going to append that word into our empty list, that is filtered tokens list. Understood? So if W not in stop words, then append W to filter tokens. That's all. Okay. And then we have just printed our word tokens and the filtered tokens over here. Yeah, you can observe these two lists. Yeah, fine. So whatever tokens we found in the text, those were the words from the text. It is exactly the same as the sentence we saw. It included with also, but when we filtered or when we removed the stop word from the word tokens, at that time we had only this much. Fine. So that is called as stop word elimination. Simple, quite simple. Yes. Any doubt up till now? Yes. Anyone? Is there any doubt? It is simple, not much tough. Okay, fine. We'll perform stemming again. Uh, for stemming, we had imported a class autostemmer whose object is being made here. PS is the object. Now, uh, if we are performing stemming, we need to have a list in which we are going to store the root form of every word, right? So what we'll do, we'll take one word at a time from the filter tokens list, and in that we'll print the word original word, and against that we are going to print the root form of that word. So for printing the root form, we have a method of the Potter Stemmer class which is called as stem the word W. So it means we have to perform stemming for the word W, right? Since it is a method of Potter Stemmer class, the method has been called with the object of Potter Stemmer class, that is PS, right? We will print in this way, and at the same time we will add the root form of the word W into our stem tokens list. Understood? We are appending the list. So as an output of this, you can see over here, programmer, program, writes, write, programs, program, programming, program. Languages, you can observe, has been, S should have been cut off, but ES has been cut off. So that is the algorithm with which the Potter-Semmer class or the stem function is going to work. So that can be a limitation of stem, but predominantly all the words are stemmed properly. Some of the cases you may observe misfunctioning like this in case of languages. Fine. So this is stemming for you all. We have a set of stemmed words. That's all. Now we are coming to, now whatever we have is a rich information which we can straight away take for the classification process. Prior to that, we have to extract features out of it, right? Okay. So for sample, I have taken two new text documents, text and text one. Text we are going to use for training of our count vectorizer model, and test one we are going to use for testing of our model. Okay, so we have created an object of the count vectorizer class, count vectorizer model, and what it does, this count vectorizer uh, object, whenever we fit this particular model to our text, that means we are training our vectorizer model. Understand this, we are training the vectorizer model with the given text which is present in our document text. Okay, understand this. So what count vectorizer does in this case, it performs even if the text is not cleaned, that means stop words are not removed, it cleans the text on its own. So here if you observe, our text is having many stop words, right? So according to the count vectorizer, whichever word is the stop word, it will remove that word during this model fitting. Understood? So it will clean, it will tokenize, and it will build a vocabulary of words for us. So that is the case. Now, once we have fit the model over the required test, once we have fit the count vectorizer model, then we are going to display the vocabulary. Whatever vocabulary the vectorizer has gained, it will display that vocabulary with the attribute vocabulary underscore. Remember this. So whatever object we have defined for the count vectorizer model, that object dot vocabulary underscore. Fine. And as a result, we'll get this. What they have done, they have simply taken every word from the text and assigned an index for it. Randomly they have assigned. Okay. So you may see 0 is assigned to data, 5 is assigned to mining, 4 is assigned to is. Surprisingly, count vectorizer does not consider is as a stop word, so it has kept is. It has only removed this A. Apart from that A, everything is present. Even this for is present. Understood? So in short, it has assigned a index value to every word in the given text document with which we have trained the count vectorizer model. Understood? That's the only thing. Now, once we perform training, it is time for testing, right? In order to test, we will apply the newly created model called as vectorizer over the test information that is present in our text1 document. Okay. So the function that with which we are going to perform is testing is transform. So vectorizer.transform and pass the test document to it. What it does exactly, you may read over here in comments I have mentioned. What it exactly does, it sees which word uh, in the text1 document is also present in the uh, text document. Understood? So if there is a word present in the test document and the same word is also present in test1 document, then for that it will print a 1 over here, if you can observe, right? We'll see how to map this. Prior to that, just try to understand, read this particular comment. It counts the presence of words in the vector sorry, in our vector in the new document, against the new document it should be. So if I generally, when we transform, when we apply the function transform, it returns a matrix for us. So I'll display the matrix for you. Yeah, I'll have to. Okay. Oh. Yeah. So it prints such sort of matrix. Actually, what it is trying to suggest is at the element 0th row and 0th column, there is a value 1, and the element present at 0th row and 5th column is 1. Okay, so whatever is present, it is present in the 0th row, if you can interpret from this, right? So why not to print the 0th row itself? So that is why we are converting this matrix to an array, and I have printed the array straight away over here. Understood? So as I told, with count vectorizer model, we are going to check which all words are present in our trained document, which all words from the test and the trained document are matching, right? So it says that the word present at 0th index and the word present at 5th index are matching. Which are the words in our train document present at 0th and 5th index? Data and mining. Apart from these two words, we are not having any other word in common between the between the text and text1 documents. Understood? So in general, to summarize what we can say, count vectorizer model will give us the similarity between our documents, right? So if we have a corpus, I mean, if uh, what is the meaning of a corpus? It is a collection of documents, right? So if we have a collection of documents and we want to find similarity between the set of documents, then we will apply count vectorizer model and extract similarity from all the documents. Understood? So there is a different application domain altogether when we use count vectorizer, where we have to use count vectorizer model. Understand this thing. Getting this? By far, is there any difficulty? Anyone? Yes? Yes, Soham, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Huh. Is there any difficulty, Soham? Understood everything?
Yes, sir. Understood.
Yeah, okay, okay. Uh, Even if you are facing any difficulty in any of the steps while I am explaining, please raise your hand, or if I still don't notice your hand, then you can straight away interrupt me. Okay, unmute yourself and ask your query. It will be fine. Okay, fine. So we saw one feature extraction model, that is count vectorizer. But as I told, and I have rightly mentioned over here also, count vectorizer model does not highlight the difference between documents. This is very important. Huh? Please concentrate. Count vectorizer model will never highlight the difference between documents. And in today's day and age, we are always, I mean, we want customized services, isn't it? If I am interested in news of cricket, so I want only those notifications. Understood? So in that case, count vectorizer is of no use to me. It is not highlighting the difference between documents. Suppose I am owning a news app, okay, like Daily Hunt I am using, right? And Daily Hunt people are giving me all sorts of news notifications, may it be political, may it be related to the IT industry, may it be related to sports, may it be related to any other area of interest, right? So I am finding Daily Hunt is boring. I don't want to use it. Getting my point? Because it is not differentiating between me and the other users. I want customized services always. So in that case, count vectorizer model is of no use to Daily Hunt wala people. In that case, we are more interested in TF-IDF. What it is? Term frequency and inverse document frequency. What it does? It highlights the words which are frequent in a particular document, but they are not frequent across the corpus. That means across all documents. Understanding? And that is my need. I want to highlight the words which are significant in a single document, but they are not significant as far as all the documents are concerned. Isn't it? Are you getting my point? So for that reason, TF-IDF is useful. Understand this? Okay. So like we imported count vectorizer class, we have also imported TF-IDF vectorizer class over here, right? And we have taken a corpus. We have taken a collection of documents over here, which I have separated by comma. The first document consists of the text. Data mining is a good research domain. Second, we are studying data mining today. And third, data mining is a promising career. These are my 3 documents present in my corpus. Okay. Now, as I created object of count vectorizer, I am also creating object of TF-IDF vectorizer model. Okay. And as I fitted, as I had fit the count vectorizer object, I have also fit over here TF-IDF vectorizer object to my newly created corpus. Understood this? Simple as that. No change at all till this day. Only the change is name of the class that we are utilizing. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Then you might, some of you all might be thinking that we didn't take a corpus over there for count vectorizer. So it is optional. You can take a collection of documents or a single document, whatever you want. But the thing is that if your test document was compared with one document, in our case, if you mention a corpus, that is a collection of document, your test document will be compared with all the 3 documents. That's the only difference. And you will gain similarities from all the 4 documents that you're dealing with. That will be the only difference. Okay. Not anything else than that. Okay, this is fine. This is considerable. Okay, fine. Then we have displayed the vocabulary as we did in the case of count vectorizer. Now by displaying the vocabulary, as I told, we get an output, and in the output we get to know which index value is assigned to which word. So this, considering all the 3 documents in our corpus, all the words except the stop words are mentioned over here, and you can see every word is assigned a value. Okay. Now why this value is assigned, we'll get to know in a while. Here we mapped which value is common amongst the words, and for that we had a 1 in our output vector, right? Here again, to see the IDF value, like we used vocabulary attribute which gave us the index of every word, we can use IDF attribute. What it will give me, for every word a IDF value is computed. When we have fit this model to the new corpus, a IDF value for every word from the corpus was calculated. And what is the IDF value for every word? We can map it with a index value of that word. So for example, if I have a word data at the second index, I will have its IDF value present at the second index in this vector. Okay, so it is 1. So I'll make you understand how to interpret this particular output. Okay, so if data is having a IDF value 1, that means it is of no use to me. It is simply common word between all the documents, and rightly so. Data is appearing in the first document, it is appearing in the second document, and it is also appearing in the third document. Similarly, mining is also occurring in all the documents, right? So its IDF value should also be what? It should be 1. Okay, let us see whether it is 1. Where is 1 value over here? Yes, here. Mining has an index value 7. Let us see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yes. Understood this? Apart from the common words, if there are any unique words in any document of our corpus, then it will have some higher value than the than 1. If there are words which are common across all the documents, it will have IDF value as 1. If there are words which are common in 2 documents, then it will have a higher value than 1. And if there is a word which is uniquely present in one of the documents, then it will have some higher value. Okay, so that is related to that document itself. So if I take the example of first index, what is the word at first index? Career. Yeah, career is a word which appears in the third document. You can see here. So that is why its IDF value is 1.69. Similarly, if you take a word at the 8th index, what is the word at 8th index? Promising. Again, promising is appearing in the third document. Understood this? How to interpret? Yeah. Okay, fine. So we trained our TF-IDF model with our corpus, and we saw what is the output of training, right? We verified what is the vocabulary, and we verified what are the IDF values for each of the word after training. Fine. After training, we have to perform testing. Similar to what we did in case of count vectorizer, we are going to perform the same thing. We are going to use the transform function, and we are going to provide a test document as input. Now we are considering the third document from our corpus as our test document. Ideally, there should be a different document altogether which was not part of training, but it is fine. For demonstration, I have used the same third document. Okay, you can see the index as 2 from the new corpus. Fine. Once we have trained it, that means we have executed this particular statement. I think it was once we have trained it, like we did in case of count vectorizer, we converted the resulting matrix into an array, and then we interpreted the result. So again, I will convert my matrix into an array and then interpret the result. Now this is interesting. Pay attention for a while. Okay, fine. So we gave the third document as test input, right? So whichever words we have got in the corpus, if those any of the words is not appearing in my third document, like for example, I'll take the word in my first document, that is domain. That word domain is not appearing in my test document, that is my third document. So naturally, if there is a no match, I will get a value 0. Understand this? Okay. So domain is having an index value 3. If I see the third value in our array 0, 1, 2, 3, it is 0. Understood this? Okay. One more thing. So it means that we are dealing with TF-IDF and we want to know the significant words from our test document with respect to the entire corpus, isn't it? So how does this array help us in deciding the significant words? That is the question, right? So if I see this array which is printed, which is the highest value, that you can see? Anyone? Yes. Shreyas? Shreyas, if you can hear me? Shreyas? Abhay? Roll number 74, Abhay? Yes, do respond. Otherwise, I'll consider you all as absent, okay? Yes. Yes, Abhay. Yes, Abhay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I am asking which of the values that you can see in this particular array is the highest value?
0.55249005.
Yeah. Okay. So 0.55. This is present at which index? Abhay?
First index.
First index. Which is
If
the
zero
word
index.
present at?
Okay.
No.
First.
Okay. It is the first index. Which is the word present in our vocabulary at the first index?
Career.
Career. So according to our testing, since this value is highest, career should be the most significant word in our test document, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So we'll check whether it is most significant or not. Is career appearing in third document? Yes. Is career appearing in any of the documents? Other documents? No. That means career is appearing only in the third document, and that is why its significance is more. So it is a feature for us. As far as the third document is concerned, career is a feature for the third document. Similarly, we have same value for another word present at the index, I think 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which is the word at 8th index in our vocabulary? Promising. Is promising present in our third document? Yes, definitely. Is it present in all the other documents? No. That is why it is more significant than the other words. Understood? Then we'll take the next highest value, that is 0.42. 0.42 appears at which index? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which is the word at 6th index? Is appearing in the third document? Yes. Is it appearing in any of the other documents? Yes. That is in data mining. Sorry, in the first document. And since it is appearing in only 2 documents, its value is 0.42. Whereas, let us consider the third value. Sorry, the value at the second index. That is 0.32. What is the value at the second index? Data. Right? Is data appearing in third? Yes. Is it appearing in any of the other? Yes, it is appearing in all of the other documents. That is why its value is least. It is least significant to. Understood? Are you getting my point? Similarly, I guess this will be for mining, because mining is another common word amongst all the documents, which is also present in the third document, and that is why it is having a least significant value. And our motive of gaining the features, significant features, can be satisfied with this particular array. We can find out which words are significant as far as a given test document is concerned.